by the alternative view, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's long overdue that that particular act is challenged, and beyond protest, I'm hoping that we see um, illegal action taking, up to the Supreme Court, to strike down certain provisions of that act that are very arbitrary and empowers, policemen or security agencies to violate the rights of citizens and to clamp down on what I would argue as dissenting views.
All right. Much later on the show, I would be discussing with a security expert regarding some of the things, the insecurity happening that we've, seen in the last couple of weeks all over the country, from Plateau to Benue to Edo, different states, even those that don't even make it to the news. But let's let's talk more on this, on the protest, because it's almost like there is never a record in our history that I am aware of that we've been allowed to have a protest that is termed peaceful without having police interference. Um, when are we going to get to that time where Nigerians are going to be allowed to just say, okay, we want to protest, even when these people are not agitating with force or anything? They're only just saying, we want to protest, which of course is our constitutional right, to express ourselves, to protest. Protests could be in different ways. But we see that most times our protests become chaotic as it progresses within the day. It becomes chaotic. You begin to see things like tear gas everywhere. You begin to see people running, head to scatter. You begin to see, I mean, we have some of the videos, from the protests of yesterday in different parts. You begin to see a whole lot of things happening. When are we at, I mean, for you, Ayo, when do you think Nigeria is going to get to that phase where we are going to just have a protest and say, okay, we're having a protest without the police, having barricades everywhere and, gearing up like they're about to go fight Boko Haram?
Well, the truth is, protests in anacracies, because I believe that to a very large extent, what we have in Nigeria is an anacracy. It is not really a full fledged democracy in the sense that you have, in Central Europe, or in Western Europe, and in certain parts um, of the world. What we have is an anacracy. And the truth is, protesting anacracies are never going to be comfortable. They are going to come with certain costs, certain discomforts, and to a very large extent, certain amounts of imprisonments. That's the reality of protests in anacracies, especially in developing economies like ours. So the truth is, I will not pretend to argue that you're going to have a time where it will be trendy or fashionable for people to come out and lead anti government protests or protest against certain policy positions or things like that. It would always cost protesters something. But in reality, change actually comes with a price. And people who believe in certain ideas, who believe in certain principles, must be willing to put themselves on the line to achieve the new reality that they envision. And that's the cost that is imposed on change makers and the cost that is imposed on people who want to birth a new country or a new nation or ideas that are revolutionary in any part of the world. So I would say that protests are never going to get easier, especially in economies or in political systems like ours that are bogged down by corruption and things like that. But what we must encourage is that people who have genuine intentions must remain steadfast, must remain committed to the larger ideals that they seek to advance, and that citizens also support those ideas as long as those ideas are democratic and as long as those ideas tie to the larger well being and welfare of the majority of the citizens of this country. So I would argue that what they need is support from citizens, support from media organizations, support from civil society organizations, and that's the ultimate price that society has to pay collectively, for societal progress and advancement. So it's not going to get comfortable, it's not going to get easier, it's not going to get prettier, but our commitments, our resolve, must be deeply entrenched in the vision of a new and better Nigeria that works for everyone and not a tiny elite.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo. Before I let you go, let's touch on the Trump tariff a bit. Since last week, it has been a conversation all over from different parts of the world, different countries are talking about this. I mean, we also heard that China, are thinking, considering a retaliatory tariff. And of course, Trump is also saying that if China tries to do anything, they are going to increase, make it another 50%, to the already existing one that is there. The EU already saying, okay, they want to negotiate, they want to have a conversation. Nigeria is just basically talking about what they are going to gain or what they're going to lose if this is implemented, if this is what the case is. Where do you think that some people might say, okay, Nigeria is a small fry compared to other, bigger nations. Where do you stand in this? I mean, you saw the papers this morning where it's been said that considering the new Trump tariff, they're going to be reconsidering the 2025 budget. What do you think that is going to happen?
Well, there are a lot of things to consider. Not just the tariff, especially from the perspective of the Nigerian budget. You see that oil prices are also crashing.
Yes.
It's going to get worse if the Americans are able to strike a deal with the Iranians and the Israelis. It means that you're going to have a lot more oil pumped into the global market, and that also means lower oil prices, and that means trouble for the Nigerian economy. So there's a lot of redrawing that needs to happen, especially like you rightfully said, given Trump's tariffs that targets certain consumables, agricultural products, and pharmaceuticals in Nigeria. They want more inroads. They want to be able to export things like beef, other agricultural products, some pharmaceuticals into our country. And that will be devastating for local industries that are already operating in Nigeria and that are employing hundreds of thousands of people. So, I mean, this is the time where the big boys have to wear their pants and come to the negotiating table. People have to now earn their salaries and their big titles. We need our most seasoned and most experienced diplomats, to engage, in bilateral and multilateral negotiations to limit what could be a devastating effect on the Nigerian economy. Thankfully, it's our daughter who is at the helm of affairs at the World Trade Organization.
Yeah.
And while she's not there at the behest of the Nigerian government, we have backdoor channels because she still has her heart in Nigeria to be able to leverage her experience, if not directly her office, but to leverage her experience and expertise to find ways and avenues that we can wriggle ourselves out of this. Because if indeed we are slammed by these things, if we capitulate to the Americans who want to have unfettered access into our markets, what that would mean will be huge job losses for the Nigerian people. It will be a near collapse of the Nigerian economy as we know it. And it will just lead to very, very dangerous outcomes. And so we need a government that is upright. We need the best brains put together, as a team to not just negotiate fair trade deals with the Americans, but to also negotiate a new world order with shifting alignments and shifting geopolitical positioning by various countries across the world so that Nigeria can emerge with its own interests protected and also perhaps leads its own hegemony, regionally within the African continent, so that, you know, our economy gets a chance to grow, and our people can enjoy some measure of prosperity, and not despair.
But don't you think that this might even be a blessing in disguise? I mean, let me explain. What if we look at it from this other side? What if it's a call to action for our government to just look inward? We have the numbers. We do have the numbers. If we're to say, okay, let's look inward, let's look at those untapped resources. Let's look at those untapped areas. We have relied so much on oil, and right now everything it's looking like it's going south. Why can't we look at other areas, other avenues? We have the numbers. We are over about, last census says we're about over 200 million. So we have the numbers. So if we are able to produce our own thing, if we're able to consume our own thing, we wouldn't exactly need so much reliance from what is coming from outside. Don't you think so? And also, an opportunity for us to build relationship with other strong powers. I mean, yes, America is strong, but isn't it an opportunity for us to look and say, okay, where else can we do business? It mustn't be oil alone. Where else can we do business? We have a lot of things coming in from here, and we can also produce a lot of things from here. That is, I know it would require our factors of production being at all-time best, because for now it's not. So don't you think it's an opportunity for us to look inward and see what we can do from the inside and say, okay, we've relied too much from outside. Let's go into our house and put our house in order.
Well, every chaos is pregnant with opportunity. And like you rightfully argued, we should be focused on the opportunities that this new global realignment, presents. But the reality is it requires capacity and capability to be able to tap into this new changing world order, and to create a new pathway that Nigerians can emerge a lot more prosperous, in this new global realignment. And that's why I've argued consistently that this is not a time to play politics with the quality of people that will be representing Nigeria on a diplomatic stage, and those who will be negotiating on behalf of the Nigerian people, whether it's in trade, um, and all sorts. We must put our best foot forward to ensure that we're not gamed. Because, listen, you talked about the Chinese. The Chinese have the best and the most experienced trade negotiators in the world. So it's not as easy as sitting with the Chinese and extracting the best deals. You'll be crushed on the negotiating table with the Chinese because they are not out to help you. They are also out there to advance the interest of their country and their citizens. So I think it has to start with Nigeria crafting out a foreign policy objective that is inspiring, that also, promotes larger economic interest. And it's not just about projecting that foreign policy interest. It's about building the capacity that is required to advance that foreign policy interest. And this means recruiting the best minds in our foreign service. It means human capital development, especially with people in government and in the bureaucracy that are able to lead this new world order. It's a tough order, it's a tough call,
Yeah.
but it requires a lot of leadership. And unfortunately, that has been grossly lacking in the last few years. Again, I don't like to pray about things of government, but if we are not careful, we really could find ourselves at the bottom of the bottle in the next couple of years, given the fast-paced, change and volatility that are likely to happen in the next couple of months. The Singaporeans are already reacting. Japanese are reacting. Of course, the Chinese already have a strategic roadmap that they seem to be pursuing. The Indians, are recalibrating. But it doesn't look like the Nigerians have even thought through of what their role in a new world order is going to look like, what kind of influence we want to have at a regional and at a global level, what realignments that we need to pursue, we're even just still grappling with the very basics of meeting agricultural sufficiency locally, not to even talk of playing chess at a global level. So um, I worry that we might find ourselves at the bottom of the bottle if we're not careful, with and take governance as seriously as it requires. We just might find ourselves at the short end of the stick, and
Mr.
that gives
Ayo,
me
are you
worry.
sure we're not already at the bottom of the bottle? Because I don't know how bottom we can get at this point. I don't know.
Well, well.
All right, thank you very much for joining us to review some of the headlines this beautiful morning. Thank you for your time, Mr. Ayo. We do hope that you have a beautiful day ahead.
All right then. You
Uh,
have a great day.
all right. All right, that's Mr. Ayo Lawal. He's an analyst and, of course, a journalist, writer, speaking on some of the headlines on our national dailies. It's about time for sports, and I'm definitely sure you want to know what's happening in the world of sports with Ival Edu. And after then, by 8:30, to be time for Eastern Circle with Adeze and Michael. And I will be back at about 9 o'clock to have a serious conversation on security with our guest who's going to be joining me at about 9. You do not want to miss any part of this. Don't go anywhere.